Force will be with you.
Always.
Or just be your beast.
The final intergalactic installment in the Skywalker Saga has landed. Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson lose the plot in the Lighthouse, and the Wild Goose Lake offers a sumptuous vision of the Chinese crime underworld. Well, that's all coming up in today's film show, and here to tell us more about all of that is film critic Lisa Nesselson. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, Olivia.
Now, here in France, movies are always released on Wednesdays, which means the latest Star Wars episode actually hits French screens a couple of days earlier than elsewhere in this our galaxy. You got to the press screening in advance, which puts you in a very exclusive club. So what is your verdict on Episode 9, Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker?
Well, it takes place in a galaxy far, far away that's never been quite far enough away for me. I know that Star Wars means a great deal to phenomenal numbers of people, and I respect that. Truly, I do. But it's just never meant anything to me. I think I was a little too old when the first one came out. But anyway, 24 hours later, I can already feel most of the movie just sort of evaporating from my memory. The press screening was not in 3D, however, and I'm willing to bet that those battle sequences, and there are a lot of them, are pretty nifty, jumping off the screen. Just as Queen Elizabeth has been there throughout the lives of almost everybody, the rather silly story George Lucas foisted on the world starting in 1977 has been a merchandising staple for decades.
Indeed, was there a time before Star Wars? Well, let's get a glimpse of the film with no spoilers, of course.
We've spotted the fugitives.
Now, Lisa, you have seen all of the installments of the Star Wars saga, but you've not fallen under their spell, let's say. Has anything changed in the last 42 years?
Well, what was almost certainly better about the world 42 years ago is that social media had not yet supplanted normal human discourse. A terrifying number of people have invited electronic gizmos far less benevolent than R2-D2 and C-3PO into their homes, and Alexa or Siri are capable of speaking grammatically perfect English. So what is Yoda's problem?
Yeah, somebody somewhere is probably working on a linguistics PhD about Yoda's speech patterns. So characteristic they are. But there is an academic dimension to all of this, isn't there?
Well, matter of fact, a hip multiplex in Paris's Library Quarter held a day-long series of conferences with leading scientists and philosophers with headings such as The Force in Star Wars, Myth or Reality, and the one I'm sorry I missed, The Skywalker Family on the Analyst's Couch. Now, the film does provide a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it's a mishmash of thematic touchstones. Sometimes bloodlines are incredibly important, and sometimes your real family is irrelevant. It's friends and strategic allies that count. Sometimes a lightsaber is your most vital accessory, and sometimes you can't wait to throw it away or bury it in the desert somewhere. Sometimes you absolutely have to get to one specific spot in the galaxy so that shortly after arriving, somebody can shout, "We have to get out of here."
Okay. Well, the screenplay was co-written by J.J. Abrams, who's also the director, and Chris Terrio, who wrote the screenplay to Argo. So I should imagine some of the dialogue is quite catchy.
Well, I have to say the dialogue falls into two categories, really direct and enigmatic. So, kill the girl, end the Jedi, or we have to go, or the urgent we have to go now, versus never underestimate a droid, and good people will fight if we lead them, and 1,000 generations live in you now. And if tidying Queen Marie Kondo heard about that, I think she'd probably tell you to throw away at least 999 of those generations cluttering
Like
up your innards.
Russian dolls, yeah. Now, there must be something that stood out, one positive.
Oh, I mean, yeah, more than one. There's an adorable new droid that I really wish we got to see more of. There's a strong message that women can be great pilots and generals and fearless warriors, and whatever technique they tapped into to give the late Carrie Fisher several crucial scenes is remarkably effective. I think the most impressive effect, however, is that Rey's gauzy white outfit remains startlingly clean no matter what happens. Explosions, fires, sandstorms, greasy droids, stray Wookiee hairs. She never looks grungy. Rey doesn't have a last name. Will she have one before 2.5 hours are up? And will we care? There are battling threads here about honoring your heritage and improving upon your destiny. Everybody is a potential hero, whatever their origins, so a round of interspecies hugs all around.
Okay, well, not entirely damning then. Next, from a galaxy far, far away to an outpost far from land, let's say. A lighthouse on an isolated rock where two men must fight for their sanity. Now, the Lighthouse had critics running out of hyperbolic praise when it screened at the Cannes Film Festival this year. Tell us why.
Well, Robert Eggers shot this with very old cameras and lenses from the 1940s on real film in a screen ratio that's practically square, and it's in black and white, and it stars Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. Now, what genre is it? Well, it's a little bit horror, a smidgen of fantasy, and a whole lot of, hey, look what the medium of film can do. This is such a show-offy project that at times you want to say out loud, oh, come on, guys, you passed over the top half an hour ago. Where do you think you're going now?
Okay, well, it seemed to go down well, that new genre you've just invented. Let's take a look at these two men versus Mother Nature.
Dance! Dance, Winslow! Dance! Come on, you like the what do here? How we got to the wood last year? Into the same we jumped on this. We got put in a big...
Now, going on that evidence, I think we can say that the two characters' sanity is truly at stake here.
Well, there actually is a belfry in the lighthouse, and that's a fine spot to express one's battiness. One of the rules while serving an official stint at the lighthouse in the 1890s is not to drink alcohol. Suffice it to say that our demented duo break that rule. They have no female companionship unless you count the mermaid, who may or may not be real, and the gender-neutral dead seagull that gets a lot of screen time. Much of France is on strike this month, protesting an overhaul of the pension system and injustices in the workplace. However thankless and ill-paid your job is here in the 21st century, this movie makes an excellent case for how, whatever it is, it must be better than being a stranded turn-of-the-century lighthouse keeper.
Oh, I'm not sure. We should maybe give them a try, send them to a lighthouse for a little while. Well, next we're going to a film that also premiered in Cannes at the film festival in May, and it's coming out here in France next week. It's called The Wild Goose Lake. It's a moody Chinese thriller. Should we be rushing to see it?
We should be moving along at a good clip, yes. This is a very colorful Chinese film noir, and to be honest, I'm not sure I completely followed the intrigue, but there's a virtuoso tension to this that kept me riveted to the attractive protagonists who appear to be in very big trouble.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the atmosphere in Jiao Yinan's Wild Goose Lake.
此次对抓捕犯罪嫌疑人周泽农提供重要线索者，警方将给予人民币30万元的奖励。
很有可能就藏匿在这一带。
他们应该进入了业务堂，
是一个三不管的地带，哪个都想管。
你是周泽龙龙波吧？
So, Lisa, you mentioned that constant tension, and that's because some of these characters really do mean business, isn't it?
Well, one of the pleasures good chase films have to offer is that we usually don't want the fugitives to get caught. So if they stop for a bowl of noodles or a cup of tea, we're thinking nourishment is a good thing when you're on the run, but you don't want to die in a noodle shop, do you? Slurp faster. One of the things I found underwhelming about the latest Star Wars is that there are no unforgettable images, just massively competent ones. The Wild Goose Lake has at least two sequences that will stick with me possibly forever, and I won't give them away, but you can see for yourself.
Yeah, photographic excellence there. Now, finally, we're taking a step back in time. Last year, 4 million tickets were sold here in France for restored older films and re-releases. Now, one of your favourite movies is getting the big screen re-release treatment this month. Tell us why you love The Great Escape.
Well, I can picture myself back in the 5th grade, sitting in the back of the classroom, reading during class, surreptitiously with a book open on my lap. I read the true World War II prison camp story, Escape from Colditz, that way, and I absolutely loved the movie The Great Escape. I also love Billy Wilder's Stalag 17. I can't say why from an early age I've loved World War II tales of fooling the enemy and making a break, but I did. I love the musical score here. I love the rebellious streaks of the POWs. I love the way they talk back to their captors. Even if you've never seen the film, you've probably seen images of Steve McQueen doing some of his own stunts on a vintage motorcycle. Now I look at movies and I wonder whether they contain any useful tips for surviving the upheaval that will certainly accompany accelerating climate change. But if you ever find yourself in a World War II POW camp and wish you weren't, and you want to really mess up your adversaries, this is the visual primer you need.
Great. Well, that's in addition to zombie apocalypse tips, we've got a few survival tips there too, along with our film reviews. Thank you very much for joining us this week, Lisa. And we'll leave you with some of those famous faces and the famous musical score from The Great Escape. Do remember to check out our website, and you can keep up with us on social media too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
Cedric, manufacturer. Griffith, I said, tailor. Nimon, Hames, diversions. Which one's a forgery? They both are.
It is the sworn duty of all officers to try to escape.
What are you taking out?
250. 250?